are a couple things that we kind of talked about. This isn't really gonna work, but let's see. So can I scroll while talking? Is the main question. No, I cannot. Okay. We'll have to do this separately then. That's fine. So I did want to talk about some like champs, things like March 3rd. No, so we have a balance patch coming up on the 30th, but the champ rework is coming in April. The balance patch, I assume, would just be like, they're gonna tone down some Vandal City stuff, maybe Gnar, maybe like Yordle and Arms, some stuff like that I think a lot of people just expect to see. But I'm looking a little bit past that because that's like the minor stuff, right? That's not as exciting. It's definitely gonna shake things up, but like to me, it's not like what I'm really excited about. And what I'm really excited about is the champ rework coming up. Fiora rework? Nocturne? I think Nocturne is like splendid the way it is. I think I can also talk a little bit about just like what I kind of like look at as a rework. Like when I saw I think a really cool buff, and I wouldn't call this a rework, but a really cool change that they made for Diana was that now on Nightfall you get Challenger. I think this is a fantastic change to the card that I think makes it a lot better, right? You can use Diana as your Nightfall activator, and then play like a Nightfall card and still get the benefit from it. I think that's like a fantastic change to the card that like really raised its power level into like a solid champion, right? It's not super strong, it's not like terribly weak anymore. It's a very solid champion right now because you have the quote unquote infinite challenger, which I think was fantastic. Destroy, what's up? Thanks for the follow. Oh, helpless victim. Sorry, I missed you earlier. Thank you for the follow. Ooh, Dice and Juricom. Sorry, I missed you guys as well. But thank you so much for the follow, guys. Welcome to the stream. I think this, like the Diana change, is like what I see a lot of champions benefiting from in the game. And like not a lot of champions need like a complete rework, right? Like there's very few champions that I actually think need like a full-on rework. And a rework I mean just like fundamentally changing how they work. So like something like got reworked is like Ren Shadowblade. You guys don't know this, but Ren Shadowblade used to be like this, I don't know, some 8 mana something that made your opponent's units ephemeral. But now it's just like a create a card on strike. So like there's very like distinct cards that actually need rework. So Katarina is definitely a card that needs a rework, right? Garen is probably a champion that could benefit somehow from a small buff with Diana. But nonetheless, we'll just go down the line. I have a few cards that I do want to look at. So I think the first row, Fizz, solid. Fizz is already like almost very strong, like almost too strong. But I think Fizz, super cool mechanic, very solid. Kennen, Teemo, Zoe, like this whole row is fine. The 1 mana do things is like okay. I don't think any of these are any problems. Ari now in tune, Akshan. Akshan's fine. There are champions that I feel like are quite strong, but I also think that's because a lot of champions are just weak. So like if I look at Akshan, I think Akshan is just like a really powerful champion, right? What he does is like completely just like it's not broken, but it's so powerful that it makes a lot of champions look bad. But I think that's just because a lot of champions are just not as good, which puts Akshan like Akshan's just in a good spot. Other champs are just in a bad spot, right? Diana, Elise, excellent cards. I love like all these cards. Like the top 8 like cheap cards it really goes to show how like flexible they have when the champions are cheap, right? When the champions are cheap, they get to play with such interesting dynamics. Like Elise is probably one of my favorite champions, right? It's an aggressive card. It can be played in control decks. It can be played for level up. It can be played just as like a unit of its own. It's so cool how that works. But let's see, anything in here that's just like standing out, like interesting. Like I really love Zillion. I feel like Zillion is underrated in how I think powerful he is. He's definitely not like super powerful, but I really like what Zillion does, and his whole like kit is pretty interesting. Lucian. Lucian's like kind of interesting. Like it's definitely easy to like protect Lucian. What if they rework over Toon champions? Um, they can, but that doesn't like change the fact that some champions just don't see play because they're still too weak, right? Like some champions just won't see play because they're not even in line with like some of the worst champions, right? I honestly don't think Lucian is like suffering that bad. I know Lucian. It's hard, right? Lucian. A lot of the Demacia champions are definitely tied to this like rally fundamental, and reworking it away from that is definitely going to be difficult. I like the whole Lucian. Like Lucian's main thing is just like seeing allies die, right? And you know the whole Demacia thing is rallying, so everything like sort of makes sense to him. He's definitely like super strong if he works, which puts him in like a decent spot, right? I don't think he's something that needs to change. Aphelios, I definitely would like. Aphelios is like the first thing I would like look at, because like he definitely feels weak at 3 mana cards, but at 2 mana cards, he might be too powerful. It's hard to say, because like as the game progresses and we get more power creep, ultimately like 2 mana cards aren't even that bad. You could like try to rework them, but I think that's way too complicated. Or not, not too complicated, but to me it's like way too complicated. It's like for me, Aphelios, like you probably like see like I would like a 2 mana moon weapon, but I think a lot of people say is like increase its cost. So it just comes down later. So like just make it like 4 or 5 mana, and then like tune the stats. Like I think what makes Aphelios strong is his moon weapons, but him coming down like too early is definitely like really powerful. And of course there's always the crescendum question. It's so hard to like balance crescendum. I think when 2 mana is on the board, yeah, I think that's also like fine-ish. There's a the main problem is just like crescendum, right? Like Aphelios is the only time Aphelios is strong is when he's on the board, right? Like when he's not on the board and you have one moon weapon, it doesn't matter as much if it costs 2 or costs 3. That's just like much less significant. Uh like I don't think Aphelios will ever be good if his moon weapons don't cost 2, but it has to be compensated somewhere else. And Crescendum is its own can of worms that I think like deserves its own topic or video at some point. But I think cards should be balanced around Crescendum rather than Crescendum being balanced around cards. I don't know. I don't know how to think about Crescendum. Helps with phasing if there are 2. Yeah, it definitely helps like Aphelios going, right? Like Aphelios is so slow at 3 that, especially without Temple, right? It's so like miserably slow. Azir, super powerful. Caitlyn, Draven, Ezreal. I all quite like where they are. They're quite tuned to like what they are right now. Fiora's interesting. I don't think like champions like Fiora are like, I know a lot of people hate them, but I don't know how to feel about this. Like with Minimorph, with Hush, with Obliterates, with Silences, makes Fiora's like job really tough to actually act as, you know, a secondary win condition, which makes it hard because then you have to balance her around just being a 3 mana challenger. And then you just look at cards like Broadwing, Petricide, and you wonder like, why is Fiora in the game? It's so tough because like you have to balance Fiora around her level 2, right? Which is why Fiora could be a candidate for like a rework. I think this is like iconic for a lot of people, but the fact that you have to balance Fiora around the fact that she can win you the game rather than the fact that she's just like a mid-range challenger unit makes it like really difficult, right? Like if she leveled up and I don't know, like generated like a riposte in your hand or something like that, right? She could be like a 3 mana 3/3. Because she doesn't win the game, she just like acts as a little bit of an engine, right? And then she's more in line with like, I don't know, Petricide Broadwing and other cards like that. But the fact that you have to balance her around like her like this sort of like level 2 win condition puts it in a similar bucket as like Katarina, right? You can't make it too powerful, otherwise the level 2, whether it be rally, whether it be win the game, is like too powerful, right? Fiora on R on LOL is heal itself and allies after the combo. Fiora should go back to make her win condition 6 units. I mean, that's fine. But like that always gets tough when you print out like support cards, right? I honestly think Fiora is like one of those candidates that could like face like a complete rework and how it fundamentally works, because I don't know how it work. I want Fiora to be more tempo oriented, and then you can balance her stats better, right? Because like as a 3-mana 3/2, it's like outclassed by a lot of things. Like Fiora is a candidate for me as a rework because I not that I don't like the fact that there's this like alternate win condition kind of style of it, but just the fact that it just makes it so hard to balance a unit like that. Like balancing Star Spring, you can just like make it heal more, right? But the fact that you have to balance Fiora as like a stat stick as well as its like win condition is like really difficult. Make your win condition pretty much win the game, but not really. But like, Watcher like is a combo setup and then like you do it, right? If Fiora like snowballs the game, like once Fiora gets to a certain point, you just like snowball, right? And it comes down so early that it makes it tough. If you kill 2 enemies in 1 turn, heal your ally. Yeah, that's really interesting, right? I want Fiora level 2, so like rework from all win con to some more tempo oriented I guess engine. I would like some tempo oriented engine, right? It's kind of what I want, and then it can go back to like a 3/3, right? Before it gets faded. Like that's honestly, I think that's better than her current thing. Like level up grant faded to Fiora. That's so weird and interesting. Obviously they won't do that because faded isn't a Demacia keyword, but I like it should remain killing like things, but like the healing thing is like cool. After Fiora kills a unit, it strikes weakest unit. These are all like interesting things, right? I kind of like all these. I want Fiora, instead of being like a win con, I want to be like a tempo oriented engine. I don't know how that looks like. Maybe it like heals, maybe heals allies, maybe generates like a strike spell, like Shyvana, for example. Or maybe it like, I don't know, strikes a unit. All these are like potential ideas, but the main fact is that shifting it to like a more tempo-oriented engine allows you to balance its stat line a lot better. Boost allies, like give all allies +1 attack, something like that. Like anyways, it should be like a tempo-oriented engine. I think it's sticking to an alt win con just makes it like tough to balance, which is like, which is why to me it's like a candidate for like a rework. Let's move on. It's a lot of a lot of talking for Fiora. Irelia. Irelia doesn't need a rework. She get a buff somewhere. Maybe you can like put her allies attack back down to 12, things like that. It's definitely not something I'm super like worried about. Like it's really easy to just like change some numbers on Irelia and make her like a lot better. Irelia pretty much tied to a 0 Irelia, so they gotta rework that deck. We can also talk about that. I think there's 2 buckets to like this rework, right? So one is the champion is too weak and he needs to be buffed. 2, the champion fundamentally does something too powerful or too weak and needs to be reworked. And then 3, the champion's support cards either need to be buffed or they need to have more support cards. And I think Irelia just fits into that bucket of just needing support cards, right? And I'll talk about like the champs that I feel like just need support cards more as well. But I feel like there are a few of those champions that you don't really need to change champion, you just need to give them better support cards. And that's kind of where Irelia falls. You could either just like buff her slightly just by changing numbers, or you can make her support cards better, which is kind of difficult just because the whole Azir Irelia thing. And like you can't just make Azir Irelia stronger. You'd want to make Irelia better elsewhere. That's also just very difficult. I think I saw someone say this is what Ikeda said, right? Like give Irelia a tune, which I don't particularly hate as well. The fact that the first flawless duet costs 2 is just really bad. Kalista is an interesting one. Kalista and Katarina, these are where like these cards need reworks. I don't know how or what it would look like, but these cards need to do something different. Like for the same reason that Katarina can't be balanced in the same way Fiora can't be balanced, is because when they level up, they fundamentally do something just like that really broken, right? Like, you can't just make this 3 mana, but if you keep it at 4 mana and just like change something else, this just doesn't work. The fact that it costs 4 unit mana to rally is just not good enough. And like, you could tie this to something completely different. It's like, these Kalista and like Katarina need reworks, but for me, I just don't really have a suggestion how to do it. I've seen some really interesting things, but you know, I'd have to like dig Reddit and like actually do things. Did you play Cat Yasa Masters? Yeah, back in December of 2020. Yeah, back in December of 2020, I played Katarina Yasuo to Masters. She needs to be a small threat by herself to give her one more attack and overwhelm. I don't really get that. Or she changes into a slow spell. I think that's also just like if you change her to a spell, she's insanely powerful, right? Even if it's a 4 mana rally, that's just in line with the rally, and then you just have infinite rally, that's too powerful. The reason why she can't be balanced is because she's this idea of an infinite rally. Maybe you can do something like Pike, where you only get a rally once, and then you can balance this better. Like, I don't know, like when you strike, level up, recall me, create a Katarina's rally that summons you, and then this is like a 4 mana 4/4 quick attack and has no text. Is that interesting? Is that possible? Is that like, you'd have to buff like Katarina a little bit, but like, is that an idea? I'm gonna write that down because that idea is like at least interesting. So like Katarina, like, so on level, create 4 mana spell that says rally summon Katarina level 2, and that says rally summon level 2, and then the level 2 is a 4 mana 4/4 quick attack. Is that like just better? You only get a rally once, and then Katarina stays as like a 3/2, so she's still like kind of vulnerable, but she is still negative tempo. That doesn't solve the fact that Katarina is still negative tempo. Like, the reason why Katarina can't be played in a tempo deck is she's negative tempo on her own, right? Like, she has to, if she's ever recalled to the hand, she has to do something different. Otherwise, this whole idea of like just this is still really weak, right? It's like, it's so hard. Like, how do you make this like not so tempo negative? Counter slays a unit rally. Oh my god. Is that good? So like, how does she level up? So she needs to level up but stay on the board, and I think that's like where it kind of gets tough. Make her cost 1, but she can't be played in the first 2 rounds. That's so conditional and confusing. What if she creates a 0 mana card that starts an attack? On like what? That's, I like that. I like that card a lot. So like, she levels up and just creates the card, but that's not good enough. You'd have to be like an engine. Like, it's too conditional, right? You'd have to like do it on the turn. Like, if it creates it, maybe like it creates like a non-fleeting, like Leblanc. Like Leblanc. Katarina. You don't want to like just make it like another LeBlanc, but just generates like something else. On recall, create a 0 mana rally. No. This is at least more interesting. Like, it limits how powerful or like how sick or like how snowbally she gets by only being able to rally once. Now, the fact that it summons like a 4 mana 4/4 quick attack is still very powerful. I guess it can keep the stat line. So like, it's a pike spell, right? Except instead of striking ally, just rally. Like, you recall to hand and you make like a pike spell, for example. So it's kind of like a foil to Pike, but it's negative tempo instead of like a tempo swing. For the expense of being a rally. I think this is at least in the right direction. It's still negative tempo. Problem is still negative tempo. Recall to hand, generate a single target spell on level when she kills a unit. I'm not quite sure what that means, I'm sorry. I'd like her to put free Blade's Edge on summon for the amount of time she's recalled or whatever. Ooh. So like every time you recall her, she gets progressively stronger. That's not bad. Katarina and Blade Dance should strike enemies only. What do you mean? I'm not sure I understand that. But I think at least this direction is slightly better. It's just like a backwards mirror of Pike, right? All right, let's keep moving because we got a lot more champs to go to. LeBlanc, fine. Lulu is like borderline powerful, but it's just something like you just change a number. Like maybe it's like a 3-4, I don't know. I feel like Lulu is borderline powerful. But it's not Lulu, it's Flame Chompers, honestly. Flame Chomper should be a 0-1, but that's a different topic. Misfortune, fine. We were talking about Nami on the podcast with the Runeterra Pro Team guys. And I think Akedo brought up a good point that I think Nami itself, like, might need a rework. Like, what she does, again, is just fundamentally too powerful. There's nothing else that does it quite like it. Sorry guys, Misbid follows. The Phil, Reynad, and Snoopazo, thank you guys so much for follows. Appreciate it. LeBlanc needs to create a mirror image in hand 1 level. That's not bad, right? These are like minor changes that I don't really mind. She breaks any deck she finds herself in. Exactly. Like, any deck Nami is good in, it's by like a huge margin, right? Like, if Nami is good, she's insanely good. If Nami is bad, she's bad, right? Which is definitely interesting, but it just makes her like that just means she's too powerful, right? In a way. Like, her archetype is weak against certain things, that's fine because it has counters, but that doesn't change the fact that Nami herself is just like too powerful. Like maybe you just make her stat line weaker, right? And then you just make her like a 2-2 and a 3-3, and then maybe that's fine. But even then, like, the turn someone tries to kill Nami, you just get to like dump out stats. It's kind of like Heimer, but at burst, right? Like, what Heimer does is it converts your spell mana into like units, and then you can attack with the units, right? So you have your own tempo swing. But with Nami, as long as you have a board, you just gotta dump out buffs at burst, and then just kill your opponent, right? Make her 4 mana. That's also like fine, potentially. I might make her really slow. I wonder. Like, Nami to 4 mana is at least like a move. She isn't good right now. Well, we're not like not necessarily like nerfing her, but like the idea that she's fundamentally like really powerful. Like, when Nami is good, she's like insanely good by a huge margin, right? Like, nothing really comes close to it. The fact that like trying to remove Nami like almost loses you the game on the spot is like really insane, right? Like, it's very hard to play around Nami because I compare her to Heimer because fundamentally they do very similar things. However, Heimer is like A, 5 mana, B, a weaker stat line, and C, doesn't have a tune. Nami is just like too bonkers. Like, I think Nami needs a rework, but I'm not sure on how to make that happen. To me, the problem are elusives. Even without elusives, like, you just have a board, your opponent like vengeances Nami, and then you still lose because they just generate like 10-10 of stats. Nami is like a candidate that I could see a rework. I just don't know how. Remove the tune, but like, that's like half the flavor. That's a little bit hard. Rek'Sai, fine. Riven, fine. Soraka, fine. Tristana, really nice now. Tristana was one of those champions that I think like a lot of people saw it was weak, but fundamentally she's actually quite powerful, right? And then once Tristana got more support, which I also think there's a few champions that need to have more support cards. Tristana got those cards, became really powerful, and is now in like a really good spot, right? So Tristana, fine, really good. Yuumi, fine. Yumi's just okay. Like, Yumi's just like middle of the pack. Zed, fine. Zed's cool and all. Ziggs, fine. Ashe, I quite like this change. Ashe, fine. Braum, fine. Echo's like fine. Echo's really powerful, but I would just like to see more support for Echo. Like, Echo just needs some more support. Rek'Sai and Pyke should both have -1/1. What? Why? I don't understand. Yordle is broken. Yordle probably will get nerfed. I expect Yordle to get nerfed in some capacity. So we'll see. Tristana is not broken. I didn't say that. Tristana is just strong, right? Because Tristana gets more with every patch that Tristana gets more support, she becomes better, right? Like, she was okay, and now she's solid, and then next expansion she might be really powerful. Echo out of Shrima? Yeah, sort of. At least make Pyke 5 mana? Why? What? Y'all are tripping. There's nothing, like, overpowered about Pyke. He's just annoying sometimes. Like, if your opponent plays Pyke out as a unit, like, you're not bothered by that. What? Gnar? I think a lot of people are just saying Gnar shouldn't get quick attack, and I'm perfectly happy about that. Like, I don't understand why Gnar has quick attack with everything else. That's like pretty easy, and just like it's just like cherry picking like a easy fix. So Gnar, just level 2 remove quick attack. That seems like pretty fair. Jace, I really love Jace. Jace is like Jace is also one of my like close to favorite champions. Jace is like what I aspire Victor to be. Just a solid level 1 that has a powerful game-winning engine as a level 2, right? Like, Jace is like a very well like designed champion. I want to take this time just like say how like much I love how Jace is designed. Like, level 1 impactful, 4 mana 4/4 quick attack or challenger, just very solid card. And then once he's leveled up, he just becomes like a powerful engine, right? Jace is so clunky. I don't think he's like super clunky at all. Like, it's just the meta, right? But like, Jace himself is I really love the design of this. It's a solid level 1 that has a level 2 that's worth going for, and has a engine that potentially can win you the game. And the acceleration gate, which is strong. These decks are clunky. I mean, that's just the trade-off, right? You have to design their decks in certain ways to have like certain like build arounds, but that's fine. That's just like the trade-off, right? Jinx, good. Kindred, good. Leona needs more support. Like, Leona's solid. I think a lot of people underestimate Leona and how potentially powerful she could be. Just needs a little bit more support. Like, a few more Daybreak cards that are actually really solid. Leona needs Overwhelm. I think that would be like cool and all, but like, I don't think that's actually necessary. Spells. Like, Daybreak just doesn't have spells besides like Zenith Blade. If you could have like other Daybreak spells, I guess there's the Morning's Light, right? Not Morning's Light, sorry, the 1 mana spell. Just no win-con deck? Exactly. Like, Leona needs slightly more support, and then you could pair her with a lot more things. Because then the win-con kind of feeds itself. But right now, you're sort of priced into playing bad cards with Leona, and that's a little bit poor for her archetype. She just needs, like, slightly better support. If Leona gets a Vanguard Sergeant that generates you, like, a Morning's Light, that would just be, like, so insane, right? Like, Leona, slightly more support. But Leona, I think, is really underrated. Maokai, fine. Nocturne, I really like. I really like Nocturne too. Nocturne is just such a cool champion. You can make this like 4 if you really want to just like make him really powerful. But I really like Nocturne's overall design. Oh. God, Pantheon needs some change, but again, I don't know. I don't know what it'd look like. Like Pantheon just needs something. It's too dice rolly. If you hit Scout plus X, you just win the game. But if you don't hit Scout, you just like win the game in like 3 turns, which like what your deck should do. But you're like Scout, Elusive, Spell Shield. You're like, oh, okay. I just having this kind of clause, like this is the kind of thing that I would just look at and say like I'd want to rework. I get you dislike strong champs. It's not necessarily the case. Like Pantheon's super strong by himself. Like he like this dice roll like sort of I win the game on the spot if I hit the right things is just like mm, remove barrier. You could do that. Remove elusive from the pool. You could also do that, but I think scout is better than elusive. Like if you remove scout from the pool, I feel like that's fine. Like if you remove scout from the pool, Pantheon's just solid. And that's like okay, right? Uh like if you want to do that, you could do that. Poppy, fine, Pike, fine. Renekton, I think Renekton's fine. He's probably a little bit weak, but it's fine. Poppy to a 3/3. I wouldn't hate that. Like Poppy is still solid. Like a 3/3 Poppy is definitely like pretty okay to just play around with. He's good in offense. He doesn't need a good dice roll because he's already has overwhelm. He's our red most unkillable turn he drops. He gets spell shield. Uh, I disagree with that. If you're winning the game with a level of Pantheon without like Scout, you're already winning the game, right? You're just winning the game a little bit harder most times. Like if you roll Scout, you can just get cheesed. Like you can come out of unwinnable positions because your Pantheon hits like Scout, for example. And that's definitely not where Pantheon should be. Like the whole idea of having a very powerful mid-range card being able to win the game when you're losing because you're like behind on tempo because you roll scout is kind of BS, honestly. Like if Pantheon wins you the game, it just wins you the game, right? But if Pantheon wins you the game that you're supposed to be losing because you hit like lifesteal, scout, elusive, whatever, and then you just win off of that, that's kind of awkward. I like Rumble. I think Rumble just needs better support. Like having the better having a better Mecha Yordles would be cool and all, but Rumble by itself very strong. I talked about how Rumble when I saw Rumble come out that you didn't need to play its support cards at all and just a fine value engine, and I was right about that. And I think Rumble is just very solid. This whole like gain spell shield on level up though I think is too busted. I don't understand why this actually happens like this. I do understand why. It's like Gnosis, but I don't it shouldn't happen like this. I think I it's just so weirdly unintuitive to me and I don't know why it's necessary. But I think Rumble overall is fine. Like I just don't understand why it does this. Not even like it's super it is strong actually. Like this mechanic is like really powerful. Like you can get really screwed over by this in certain lines, which is like really interesting. I just need like better Mecha Yordle cards. You guys a card like Tech Handler, make his Metal Yordles better. It's not the Mecha Yordles that are weak, it's the cards that generate Mecha Yordles, right? Those cards are weak. That's the reason why they're not played is because they're bad, right? Like if they were actually good and you could play Mecha Yordles, then like maybe Rumble does something different. Shen, fine. Shyvana, fine. Sivir. Sivir. Sivir's really powerful. I really like Sivir. She's cool and all. She's really powerful. 35. It's not. It's not. It's fine. It's like a band-aid situation, right? I probably wouldn't touch Sivir, but revert Sivir's buff. Oh yeah, she was 35, right? Is that correct? She was 35? I can see Sivir going back to 35. But that's like small stuff, like chump change. Kench, fine. He's cool. Tarek, fine. TF, honestly, probably just fine. I really like where TF is at. Veigar, fine. Victor. Oh, I had a good amount of stuff I want to talk about Victor. So, let me just make sure. Perfect. TF could have one more attack? Whoa, slow down, buddy. Really? You think TF needs a buff? Alright, Victor. So, I think there's two main gripes that a lot of people have with Victor. The first one is that he sort of like gains keywords like too slow comparative to like other options, right? So something like Pantheon or like Arsenal just does his job slightly better. Now he is an engine when he levels up, so that's slightly different. So like the first idea is like you just make it so that he has better ways of generating hex core upgrades, right? Did I skip Kalista? Yeah. I just don't Kalista probably needs a rework, but I just don't know how I would rework her, so I kind of just left it. So there's two things, right? Victor, he doesn't scale as fast as I think a lot of people want him to. And so A, you could like help him generate more hex core upgrades faster. And then B is he's a little bit too random. And then you can just make him like gain keywords a little bit more specifically. And so to me, I think there's two ways to go about this, right? I think A, you can change how often or how fast he gains hex core upgrades. So like my first initial idea was if you don't have a hex core upgrade in hand, create one when you play a created card. This is my first idea. So like you play your hex core upgrade that you gain when you play Victor, and then you play a created card, and then you get to play another hex core upgrade, right? So now you're scaling Victor faster, you're gaining like stacks off his augment, and you're still working towards his level up. It's kind of broken though. I mean, is it? Like this still costs 1 mana to play out. Like that's not cheap. Like 1 mana for a keyword at slow speed, that's like not cheap, right? It's really good on level up. Well, now you have to change his level up. So his level up becomes like you've played 5 hex core upgrades. So this fits in line with this whole glorious evolution, right? Now this doesn't have to be C, you can play like multiple victors and multiple hex core upgrades. But now like this puts it more in tune to itself scaling. I think the second option is hex core upgrade becomes focus and shares a pool with Lucky Find. Like this is my second approach to it. Now you have a focus hex core upgrade, which is already better, and then it shares a pool with Lucky Find. So, or it acts as Lucky Find. So it's basically Lucky Find. So now what happens with Lucky Find is now you have a choice between 3 different options. Now you remove things like elusive and lifesteal, which is like some of the high roll stuff about Victor that I think a lot of people disliked about when playing against him. But in compensation, you get things like +0/+2 and +1/+1 that give Victor a lot more survivability. And now you don't have to rely on like the cheese stuff like elusive, lifesteal Victor. So like that's my 2 ideas for reworks. One is making him like scale faster, or 2 is to make him like slightly better. But that's my idea for Victor, and I think they're relatively cool ideas. I think Victor's better with the lifesteal options. I mean, it's better, right? It's just like, as the opponent, that's just bullshit, right? So like you remove elusive, you remove lifesteal, but you gain +2 +0 +1 +1 and +0 +2 that are just like a lot better, right? So I think this overall just like, you know, or maybe like you're more focused on getting spell shield, you can hit like the challenger. I don't, is there quick attack in the pool? I'm not sure if there's quick attack in here, but otherwise I think this is pretty cool. Alright, so what's next? Xerath, fine. Yasuo. I think, I don't know if this surprised you guys, but I think Yasuo is fine. I think it'd be cool if Yasuo got like more support cards. It'd be cool if Yasuo got like a tutor. But I think overall Yasuo is just perfectly fine with how it is. I think if Riot wanted to like make Yasuo stronger, sure, they're free to do that, right? They can make him like a 3-mana 3/3. They could make his like, you know, level up condition only 4. But I think Yasuo is actually really powerful. The more I play with Yasuo, the more I'm happy with where he's at. And I think that is like a good thing. Like Yasuo is just like a perfectly fine champion. He's not super strong. He's not terribly weak. He's just like a little bit meh. So Yone drawing Yasuo is bad, and I did talk about that in one of my videos I made like a year ago. But the main thing is, if you want a Yasuo tutor, the tutor needs to come down before turn 4. Like any Yasuo tutor that comes down after turn 4 is useless. It's just like fact. Well, not like useless, just like way worse. No, I think any tutor to Yasuo is fine, because if you draw him late game after he's leveled, that's also fine. But like, I don't know if I would want to play Yone just to draw Yasuo. It's tough. Right? You know, maybe it's fine. Like, having like a J3 for Yasuo is like fine. Like having like the Victor boat or like the J3 boat is like fine for Yasuo. It'd be cool if it has it, but otherwise I think Yasuo's a fine champ. Gangplank, fine. Garen, Worst part of Yasuo deck is never drawing Yasuo. That's true. Yeah, but Yasuo's only powerful when he's leveled, right? Yasuo level 1 is most of the time insignificant. Yasuo only matters when he's leveled. And in the matchups you need Yasuo as removal, then the boat would need to come down like between turns 1 and 3, right? It's kind of tough. It's kind of how you like want to look at Yasuo. If you think Yasuo is a control card, you need to give him a boat between turns 1 and 3. But I don't think Yasuo is a control card. So the boat would come down when Yasuo's leveled. So now you can make, like, Yone drawing Yasuo, actually the more I think about it, that's like okay. That's actually okay. Because like, you don't need to have to play it either. Okay, I like that the more I think about it. It's like Yone drawing Yasuo is just fine. I like that. Never mind. I'm putting that down. Alright, Garen. uh what about Garen? Can we make Garen like a 5-mana 5/6? I think that's fine. Garen just needs like a slight change in numbers, maybe. I don't know. Garen's boring. Yeah. Give him tough? I think that's really powerful. Tough regeneration is so nuts. But I don't mind making him powerful, but that's just nuts. You can't have tough and regen at 5 for a 5/5. That's too powerful. I think Garen's fine. Garen's actually worse than Yasuo. That's so wild. Like, Yasuo's like actually, compared to a lot of bad champs, Yasuo's like really good. But Garen's just like plain, boring, not much to do. Garen with spell shield. He literally wears an anti-magic armor. Garen with spell shield. Garen with spell shield regen. Maybe like spell shield on the turn he's played. Is that too bad? Is that bad? It's like a slight buff that like is almost insignificant, but like might as well, right? Like give Garen spell on the turn he's played. Like that's whatever. Giving Garen like barrier seems too bad or too strong. Giving Garen barrier is really powerful. Spell shield no region? That's so bad. What? Off on attack? Ooh. Interesting. 5-4 spell shield? You can't Garen with 4 health? Oh, that sounds terrible. Or just on rounds? But like you give Garen barrier and then he attacks like half of his level up for free, right? Garen has a 5-5 social with no region. You guys think that's better? Like, isn't region just like better? Like, he would need to have at least region as well as a conditional spell shield. I don't know. Garen just like plain and boring. I don't know how I'd change him, but hopefully somebody has a way. I feel like he should be striking more instead of rallying. It could be. Demacia is kind of tied to this idea of all their champions need to rally for some reason. So, +1/+1 on attack when level up, gain overwhelm. Demacia doesn't get overwhelm. That's against their region. There's a like Demacia just doesn't have overwhelm cards, so it doesn't really make sense. Garen is one of those champions either broken or sees play. If you think that's the case, then you should rework his level up, and then just take him away from rally. Otherwise, like some stat change, some keyword change here and there, just make him like slightly better. Hecarim, but Hecarim's not Demacia. Hello, what? All right, moving on. Heimer, very nice. I like where Heimer's at. I really like Heimer as a card, actually. One of my favorite champions, honestly. Karma, I don't know. Is Karma fine, guys? I think for Karma's payoff, she's fine. SI doesn't have Overwhelm. Is that true? That is true too, huh? I don't know. Karma's fine. For her payoff, she's fine. Lee Sin. Ooh, I want to talk about Lee Sin as well. So here's my concept for Lee Sin. I think Barrier is like too good, first of all. But I don't know if I want to take away Barrier. Lee Sin is fine. No, Lee Sin is not fine. Hello? Anyone that says Lee Sin is fine is just like delusional. Here's my thought to Lee Sin. So you could take away his barrier, which I think his barrier makes sense. Like Key Guardian's not even Key Guardian's Shen, not Lee Sin. I don't know why Lee Sin gets barrier every time, but I think his level 2 is slightly. Here's my idea. So like Lee Sin level 2. I'm just gonna write down my idea and talk about it, and then like you guys can give me a bit of feedback. It's like level 2. So casts one spell to gain Challenger, and then you have to cast a second spell in order to activate the kick. You try and kick a third spell? Oh, I guess you're one step ahead of me. This was my idea. You need to cast a second spell in order to even get the Dragon's Rage. Because now you have to commit a minimum of 3 mana into your attack. And I think that gives you less reactivity as a Lee Sin player, which is good because you already have one of the most reactive decks in like Runeterra. And now as the Lee Sin player, you have to be a little bit more careful about going in. You have to be a little bit more careful about planning around spells. Because if you don't have 2 spells, then you're likely not like in a position to actually win the game. Make Dragon Kick consume mana to activate? Like 7 mana? That's ridiculous, I'm sorry. Make a fleeting Dragon's Rage on attack? It can't cost 7. I'm not paying 7 for Dragon's Rage. That's just like terrible. At the very least, like something like this, and then Lee Sin like swap barrier for quick attack. Like something like that, right? Wouldn't reverting lead back to his old mana cost make him okay? Maybe. It doesn't change the fact that he's broken in what he does, right? Make him like cost 2 to kick. It's like the idea of like Jarvan, right? You need to have X amount of mana to activate a skill. It's not bad. It's interesting. It still doesn't like change much besides like spend mana, which is like because I guess useless on defense turn. I mean that's the point, right? Like I don't understand why Lee Sin is so good offensively and defensively. Like, it just doesn't make sense. Or I mean, I don't know if it makes sense and I don't know his league lore abilities, but like the fact that he gains barrier as well is just like why? Like I don't quite get it. Like quick attack means that he's still fine on attack. It actually maybe makes his like level 1 better, but his level he just suffers defensively, which is fine because you already have like Crescendum Eye, right? Like there's the Lee having like barrier as well to generate infinite barriers is just like I don't quite like this. I don't quite like the idea of Lee having barrier all the time to make him just like a huge block all the time. His barrier in League is part of his complex toolkit. Damn, well, that sucks. Lux happy with it. Quinn happy with it. Senna very happy with it. Lee Sin needs to be expensive. Nah. Like the idea of Lee Sin being like a mid-range challenger unit is like cool. Like if he didn't have a way to OTK your opponent, like any deck that doesn't give Lee Sin overwhelm is like fine, right? Like Lee Sin just deals like between 4 to 7 damage a turn, and that's like really fine, right? The fact that you can give Lee Sin overwhelm and it synergizes so well with his Dragon's Rage is like too powerful. If Lee Sin couldn't like benefit from overwhelm, he's like a solid champion. Maybe like weak, but he's solid. What if he just didn't combo with overwhelm at all? Change his skill to be instead of striking? It could be. Lee Sin, 0 cost. Creating a 0 cost something on swing if you cast 2 spells and a Barrier on 3. Barrier on 3 is like fine. Like, you change this clause to Barrier on 3 spells. That might be too weak. Who knows? I think that's too hard. Oh, the kick? The kick got 2 and then Barrier at 3? Interesting. 0 mana kick? Ooh. I don't like this whole generating thing. I don't know. Lee Sin needs some change. Or at least, well, yeah. Not even he needs a change. I would like Lee Sin to change. When is the patch supposed to be? So the patch is the end of the month, but the actual champion rework is next month. Lee Sin a 3/4? No, that doesn't. That barely changes anything. It doesn't really affect how well you can protect him. Like, you'll just play him like 1 turn later, and you're in the same position, right? Locke's fine, Quinn fine, Senna good, Swain good, Talia good, Thrush good, Trundle good. Oh, Udyr. Udyr. Udyr is... I want to see a rework on Udyr. Is it too soon, guys? What if Thrush had tough? Thrush is fine. You guys want to buff Thrush? Say what? Alright, Udyr sucks. And I think we're past that point. I talked about why Udyr sucks for at least 20 minutes. And I want some sort of rework for Udyr to make him actually worth leveling. Udyr just needs +1/+1 and a 1 less level condition. It could be, but I just don't like Udyr. Like, he could be fine if you change him like that, but like, I just don't like how he does what he does. This whole like damage the opponent's nexus thing is just like, I don't understand why that's a thing. I get it because it's with like the shaman stuff and like overall like the plunder kit, but I think Udyr overall could have like a better sort of condition. The idea of Udyr is to be an engine finisher, I agree, which right now he's not, right? And a way you could make him do that is like, so his level up So his level up changes into you target allies is my idea. So like you target, I don't know, 6+ allies with this game. So now cards like Troll Chant, Stance Swap help you progress towards Udyr level up, right? Which is cool. And then on level up, I don't know, I like something a little bit more impactful. Like, I don't know, your Stance Swap costs, I don't know, like the first Stance Swap you play costs 0 this turn, I don't know. You're leveling with gems, that'd be pretty funny, huh? Something like that, right? Like you make his level up condition in line with like what Udyr wants to be doing, and then you tune his level 2 to do something that is an engine that like tries to win the game. Because like Udyr like there's and like more support. You need more cards that generate stance swaps, or at least have more cards that synergize with this ability. Because like right now, even when Udyr's leveled up, you've played like 2 stance swaps the game. Which is like hilarious because he gains like an extra +2/+2, which is like I don't understand. But I want to tie his level up into something that he actually wants to be doing, and then I want his level up to actually be more impactful. Like maybe something like Aphelios. Look at Aphelios maybe. Like maybe have like a better way to generate swaps, maybe like make stances cheaper, do stuff. Maybe each stance you target on Udyr, you gotta choose twice. I don't know. Oh yeah, that's actually not bad, huh? The first stance swap, each turn you cast on Udyr doubles. How about that, guys? How's that? Like you gotta pick 2 stance swaps for each stance you cast on Udyr at each round. Because like if you don't have a stance swap, you still need to attack with Udyr before you generate it. But then like you just get to pick twice. You get Overwhelm on level up? But I mean the point is to give him Overwhelm with the stance swap, right? And it doesn't change this fact that the stance swaps aren't like, oh, SOA, I don't know what that means. For could get him really big. But like you still need to play stance swaps for him to even be impactful, right? Something like this is at least the beginning of something. Or like, I don't know, make him, or like some discount. So either or, right? So, Bert, oh, gotcha. That's my idea for Udyr. Vi, excellent. Viego, probably fine. Vladimir, what do you do with Vladimir? Is Vladimir just like solid? I don't know how to like deal with Vladimir. You can target Udyr with stance at fast speed. Fast speed stance is so bizarre. uh, stance swap should either be slow or it should be like focus. It's like Victor. If Victor had +1/+1, he'd be good. Or if Fant. Like the stats like is whatever, right? Like you change stats and make them in and out, but that doesn't change the fact that if they're bad, right? You want to make that so that if they're bad, they're like okay, and if they're good, they're like great, right? You don't want to make it so that like if you change its like stats by 1, he's unplayable, but if you give him a +1/+1, he's too powerful, right? The whole point of like reworking champions is to make them fundamentally different so that they have like a viable place in like the game, right? And like just by changing their stats, you just make them either playable or unplayable. And that's like not the point, right? Now some champions could easily just get like a stat bump and then suddenly they're in a fine spot. But like for any of the champions I think need reworks, they just like need to do something slightly different. Otherwise they're just either too powerful or too weak. What if Vlad, like his skill, like what if this... Alright, so hear me out. So for any of you who don't know, Vlad's spell is A, fizzleable, and B, obviously can be interacted during combat, right? What if instead of this happening on the attack, the skill still is puts on stack, but what it does is it drains all the units when you commit the attack, and then even if Vlad dies, the spell still resolves, and you'll always get the drain and damage off. Does that make sense to you guys? Like, right now, this skill resolves during combat, or like after combat is finalized, right? But what if this happened, like this was predetermined before combat, and then resolved during the stack? That's not bad. That's alright. It's not enough to see Vlad see play. I mean, it's a step forward. It's an interesting idea. Quality of life change? No, it's definitely a buff, because now it doesn't, it's guaranteed to proc. Oh, but I guess like the burst procking like stuff is kind of awkward. Drain one from everything? Oh my god, what? That'd be funny as hell. I'm just gonna write it down for now, and I'll like maybe think about it. So like Vlad skill is set pre-resolution, and then can't be fizzled. So it can still be denied, but it can't be fizzled at the very least. It's okay. So like it's guaranteed burn when you attack with it, which is like interesting. You get drained from enemies, like Tark has. See, I don't know what these characters do in LoL, so I it doesn't mean anything to me. So I'm just thinking about from a pure like card game fact. This is like what I come up with. Anivia, fine. Darius, probably just fine. I hope you'll send this to Riot. I'll post on Twitter and just tag stuff, and I'm sure, you know, people will look at it and talk about it. Hecarim. I liked what Aikedo said about Hecarim. Like, you make his buff permanent. Like, this is like a aura. So, like, even if Hecarim isn't on the board, your ephemerals will always have, like, this buff. Which I think is really solid. Which I quite like, actually. That's actually really powerful. Maybe it, like, goes down to a +2/+0, but the idea is, like, super powerful. I like that. I really like that idea from Ikeda. It's like the skill turns into an aura, and maybe it needs to be a +2/+0. Jarvan, fine. Nasus, give Nasus Fearsome back. Like, what the heck? Sejuani. Hecarim getting 3/2 riders better? Really? Why would that be better? How is 3/2 riders like better than that idea? I think this is like, I think this is too powerful, but I'm not a huge fan of how this like works, but like it's just like, I don't know, it's really good. Galio, fine. Malphite, fine. Nautilus, fine. Scion, fine. Tryndamere, fine-ish. Tryndamere's fine. So I just like Akshan and mid-range actually is good, but makes other seem bad in comparison. It's good, it makes what's fine? Wait, what are we talking about? There's too many things going on. I feel like Sedge is not fine, but like I don't know what I would do here. If Sion one more attack, that's fine. Tryndamere's fine, I think. I don't know. Like Tryndamere's equally as Tryndamere's just like Darius, right? It's like comparable. Comparatively comparable. Except it's in Freljord and does something. And then Aesol's fine. Okay, they made it through all the champions. But oh, why did I write Kato? Hecarim. But so like these are the champions that I think could benefit from seeing something different. Aphelios, it's like a slight buff around. Fiora. I would like Fiora to like have some sort of tempo oriented style instead of this alt win con. So like rework this alt win con and make it something tempo oriented. Katarina, I don't know how I feel about this, but at least it's a start. Just like being like a negative tempo thing, but comes back with a rally as a tempo card. Gnar, remove quick attack, rumble. This is like whatever. I just feel like this is non-intuitive how it works. Victor, either you make his keywords more tutorable, not tutorable, but you have more action over his keywords, or you make it so that he gains keywords faster. Yasuo, Yone drawing Yasuo would be cool. Lucian, changing how easy it is for him to kick on level 2 is probably a right step in the right direction. Otherwise, like quick attack instead of barrier. Can't nerf Rumble, why not? Rumble gaining spell shield, I guess it's like what Nasus does, but it's just so weird. Like it regaining spell shield is just so interestingly powerful. I just think like it is a nerf, which is like shitty. But I guess if you don't discard 3 cards, it has some merit. But if you like what happens is like you like remove the first spell shield, and then when Rumble attacks again, it regains spell shield. Or like you whirling death in combat and you just like fizzle a vengeance. I think it's cool. The counterplay is like sweet, but like it's weird. This could honest, I don't really care about this one. I just think it's weird and non-intuitive. It's just there because I think it's bizarre. Lee Sin, yeah, Udyr. Make Udyr more in line with what he wants to do. Make his level 2 more of an engine like Aphelios. Vlad, something, Hecarim, the aura. I think it's kind of cool. Rumble needs Overwhelm? Oh god. No. What? Why? Oh god. Maybe after level up? Oh god. No. No, no, no. You guys are wild and he's already in Noxus, guys. People already play Might with this deck. Why do you guys need Overwhelm? But that's the champions in wrap, which is cool because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, maybe like 15 champions that I think could use like a little bit of a boost here and there. Which is cool because that leaves like 60, 70 plus champions I think are like in relatively healthy positions, which to me is quite impressive. But definitely like some more spell shot on the first discard. Wait, that's just straight up buff. No, that's too powerful. What? Rumble is like strong enough as its own, right? Like Rumble needs better support cards. Okay, so 15 champions need reworks or like buffs. 10-ish champions could benefit from better support cards, and the rest are like fine. And then Rumble falls into the category of if I had better Yordle support cards, that would enable a different sort of archetype for me, which is cool. Because Rumble right now, Rumble's like a solid champion, right? Rumble's actually pretty powerful. Just the fact that he has nothing to do with Mecha Yordles is like, if you have quick attack, then it gains double attack. Oh, push fee. Alright, but that is the list. And that will be the stream as well. So I thank you guys for tuning in tonight. Hopefully this was at least entertaining or thought-provoking, a good discussion. I thank you guys for participating. So I will be setting up the raid. What are we raiding tonight? Max got the track. Sure, let's do that. It's cool. Great. Glad you enjoyed.